You see, the problem is that we are so attached to the idea of control. We try to plan and organize, believing that we can somehow perfect the chaos of life, but chaos will always remain. Life is not a machine. It is an unpredictable dance of energy, constantly shifting and changing. Now, we've been conditioned to think that we must have everything figured out, that we must impress, that we must fit into molds. But the moment you stop seeking approval from others, the moment you release yourself from that cage, you step into freedom. Because here's the truth: the need for approval is nothing but a phantom. It is a construct that keeps you from knowing who you truly are. And in the pursuit of others' validation, you forget your own inner voice. But when you let go of that, when you stop giving a damn about what others think of you, you start living authentically. Freedom isn't found in owning things, in having the perfect career, or even in chasing after dreams that society says are worth chasing. No, freedom is found in detachment, detaching from the need for things, from the weight of expectations, from the anxiety of outcomes. Freedom is found in the space between thoughts, in the moments of surrender. And you realize, when you truly understand this, that life is fleeting. It's here, then it's gone, and in that impermanence there is profound peace. You are not bound by the past, nor are you chained to a future that doesn't exist. All you have is the present, and in this moment there is no need to try or struggle. You simply are. To live in this way is to embrace the art of saying no, not as an act of rebellion, but as an act of self-preservation. To say no means you are giving yourself permission to be yourself, to not be dragged in 1,000 different directions by the demands of the world. And when you finally stop caring about everything that doesn't matter, you realize that fulfillment isn't a destination. It's in the journey. It's in the moments of stillness, the errors, the spontaneous beauty that arises when you stop trying to control it all. So, give yourself permission to stop caring, and in that freedom find your peace. Chaos is not the enemy. It is not a force to be conquered or a flaw to be corrected. Chaos is the very fabric of reality, wild, unpredictable, untamed, and yet for most of our lives we are taught to fear it. We are told to organize, to sanitize, to control every moving part of our existence. We build routines, craft identities, construct belief, all in an attempt to create order, to feel secure, to protect ourselves from the swirling madness just beyond the edges of our neatly drawn maps. But have you ever noticed, the more you try to make everything perfect, the more cracks begin to show? The tighter you hold to your plans, your expectations, the more life finds a way to undo them. And that's because life is not a machine. It's not a spreadsheet or a linear path. Life is a storm, a dance, a pulse it breathes, it shudders, it bursts into being without your permission. Chaos is not a mistake in the system. It is the system. Now, when I say chaos, I don't mean mere disorder or destruction. I mean the unfiltered, unedited unfolding of life itself, the mystery, the unknown, the moments that don't fit neatly into your narrative, the things you didn't plan for and cannot control, and what happens when you stop resisting it, when you stop trying to sort it all out, name it, fix it, is that something profound begins to occur. You begin to see that the chaos is where life gets interesting. It's where creativity lives. It's where the heart is broken open enough for light to pour in. Think of a forest. It's wild, full of death and birth, storms and stillness. There's no straight line, no perfect arrangement, and yet it works. In fact, it's the chaos of the forest that makes it thrive. The falling of trees, the decay of old leaves, the sudden lightning strike. They are all part of the grand rhythm. Nature doesn't apologize for its mess. It doesn't try to tidy itself up. It simply is, and that, in a strange way, is a form of wisdom we've forgotten. You see, when we fight chaos, We are fighting life. We are saying, this shouldn't be happening. But who decides what should be? Who is this little voice inside us that claims to know how the universe ought to behave? It's a kind of arrogance, really, to believe we can eliminate all uncertainty, all discomfort, all surprise, and still call it living. But the more you open yourself to chaos, the more alive you feel, because you're no longer trying to hold it all together. You're no longer exhausted by the performance of perfection. You let the wind blow through your soul, even if it knocks a few things over. You let the rain fall without cursing the sky, and you begin to trust something deeper, something older than logic or reason, a current that has always been carrying you, even when you didn't know it. Now, this acceptance doesn't mean resignation. It doesn't mean giving up or becoming passive. It means participation. It means being fully present in the madness without needing it to resolve into order. It means dancing in the fire rather than trying to put it out, because chaos isn't against you. It's not a punishment. It's the raw, wild edge of creation. And here's the beautiful part. Once you accept chaos, you begin to notice the patterns within it. You begin to see that it's not random, not meaningless. It's just not operating on the level you expected. There's a deeper intelligence at play, one that doesn't speak in straight lines or tidy answers, but in symbols, in synchronicities, in sudden awakenings that arrive just when you're least prepared. So don't fear the chaos. Don't run from it. Sit with it, breathe with it, laugh with it, because it will shape you, shake you, and yes, at times break you, but in doing so it will make room for something real to emerge, and that, my friend, is where the adventure truly begins. Letting go of control is one of the most paradoxical and liberating acts a human being can experience. We are born into a world that tells us, very early on, that we must take the reins, grab the wheel, set goals, and direct the course of our lives with precision. We are told that life is a ladder, and if you climb it just right, if you plan enough, strive enough, control enough, you'll reach the top. But there is no top. There is no summit to this strange mountain we call life. Because the mountain, you see, is constantly shifting beneath your feet, we assume that we are separate from life, like passengers trying to steer the ship from the deck while the ocean rages around us. But the truth, as uncomfortable as it may seem at first, is that you are not the one steering. You are the ocean, the ship, and the storm itself. The idea that you can control life is as absurd as the wave trying to command the tide. Yet still we try. We obsess over our plans, our ambitions, our schedules, and our identities, forgetting that the very act of living is not about control, but about flow. Control, as we think of it, is rooted in fear. The fear of uncertainty, the fear of chaos, the fear that if we don't hold tightly enough, everything will fall apart. But what we fail to realize is that our tight grip is the problem. We are like a man clenching his fist around water, believing that the tighter he grips, the more he can hold, when in fact the more he squeezes, the more it slips through his fingers. And so, letting go is not weakness. It is not defeat, it is not giving up, it is waking up. It is recognizing that the river of life does not need your guidance. It only needs your presence. It is flowing whether you paddle or not. And in truth, the more you surrender, the more you align yourself with the rhythm of existence. You stop trying to make the current go backward and begin to dance with it instead. But of course, letting go is not something the ego enjoys. The ego wants to be the boss. It wants to plan, to organize, to be in charge of the great unfolding. It wants to believe that if it just tries hard enough, it can bend the universe to its will. And yet, when we let go of this illusion, when we laugh at the futility of trying to control the uncontrollable, we feel a strange lightness, a freedom, we begin to see that all our suffering came from our insistence on how things should be rather than how they are. Imagine a bird trying to control the wind. It cannot, but by surrendering to the wind, it learns to fly. In the same way, when you let go of the need to control life, you don't fall into chaos, you rise into harmony, you don't become passive or indifferent, you become deeply attuned, you act not out of desperation, but out of clarity. You live not as a slave to outcomes, but as a participant in the great cosmic play. To let go is not to abandon life, but to embrace it more fully. It is to stop shouting over the music and start listening. It is to realize that the universe was never against you, and it was never yours to command. It was always inviting you to dance. So when you find yourself gripping again, gripping to people, to outcomes, to plans, pause. Breathe. Remember that life is not a problem to be solved. It is a mystery to be experienced. Let it unfold. Let it surprise you. Let it break you open, because in that breaking something beautiful happens. You stop living as the master and begin living as the beloved. And that, my friend, is the art of letting go. The illusion of approval is one of the great tricks we play on ourselves, a mirage that keeps us walking in circles through the desert of modern life, forever thirsty but never quenched. From the moment we're old enough to understand words, we're taught that to be good, to be worthy, to be lovable, we must be approved of. We must win the favor of others, parents, teachers, friends, society at large. And so we become actors in a play that never ends, constantly adjusting our lines, our costumes, our smiles, hoping, just hoping, that someone will clap. But what is this approval really? Is it love? Is it truth? No, it is a reflection, a fleeting image projected by someone else's expectations. And when we seek it, we trade the richness of our own experience for the cold currency of external validation. It is like chasing our own shadow. The more we run toward it, the further it slips away. Now, approval is not inherently evil. It's pleasant, of course, to be appreciated. It feels warm to be recognized, to be seen. But the illusion begins the moment we start believing that approval is necessary for our happiness, that our value depends on the applause of the crowd. We become addicted to being seen in a certain way rather than being in any authentic way at all. The tragedy of this illusion is that it convinces us to betray ourselves. We censor our instincts, we silence our wildness, we dull our colors, so we can fit into the outlines others have drawn for us. We measure our worth with rulers we did not make, and all the while we hope that if we just play the part well enough, long enough, we'll finally feel complete. But we never do, because the more we live for approval, the more we lose sight of who we are. There's a profound freedom that comes when you realize that no one else's opinion of you is ever truly about you. It's about them, their filters, their past, their conditioning. They are looking at you through a lens you cannot clean, nor should you try. The moment you stop trying to control how others see you, you begin to actually see yourself, not as an image, but as a living, breathing mystery, unfolding moment by moment, free from the need to impress. You see, real freedom is not in convincing everyone to like you. Real freedom is in no longer needing them to. It is in showing up as you are, not because it's strategic, not because it earns you points, but because anything less would be a lie. You stop being a brand, a persona, a projection, and you return to being a presence. And when you let go of the need for approval, you don't become selfish or cruel. On the contrary, you become genuine. You start to relate to others without performance, without calculation. You stop asking, will they like this version of me? And start asking, what is honest in this moment? And the irony is, in doing so, you may find yourself more deeply connected to others than ever before. Because you're no longer pretending, You're no longer a mirror, you're a flame. Letting go of the illusion of approval doesn't mean you stop caring about people. It means you stop abandoning yourself to please them. It means you realize that the love you've been trying to earn has been inside you all along, waiting patiently for you to notice. You are not here to perform. You are not here to be agreed with, applauded, or adored. You are here to be fully, wildly, unapologetically, and if that frightens some, so be it. If it disappoints others, let it. Because the moment you free yourself from the illusion of approval, you step into the only approval that ever mattered, your own, and in that space you don't need to be perfect, or clever, or admired. You simply need to be real. Detachment is often misunderstood. People think it means coldness, indifference, or some kind of emotional shutdown, a spiritual way of saying, I don't care. But real detachment is not a rejection of life, it is an embrace of it. It is the ability to love something fully, deeply, and without possession. Because to be free, truly free, is to no longer be owned by the things you cling to. You see, the moment we attach ourselves, whether to an outcome, a belief, a person, or even an identity, we begin to suffer. Not because those things are bad, but because our grip on them is tight. We confuse love with ownership, purpose with permanence, and self with structure. We say, this is mine, this is me, I must have it, I must keep it. And in that very grasping we become enslaved. What we don't realize is that everything is already slipping through our fingers. The world is a stream, not a statue. People change, moments pass, bodies age, ideas evolve. But when we try to freeze life in place, we create pain, not because life is painful, but because we refuse to let it move. We are like someone trying to hold on to the wind, and in the effort we miss the breeze entirely. Detachment is not about stepping back from life. It's about stepping more fully into it without fear. It's the art of dancing with life without trying to choreograph it. You move with the music as it is, not as you think it should be, and when the rhythm changes, you don't resist. You adapt. That is real presence. That is real freedom, but the ego hates detachment. It wants to anchor itself in things. It says, if I can just hold on to this success, this relationship, this idea of myself, then I'll be safe. But life doesn't deal in guarantees. It deals in flow, and detachment is the trust that you'll float even if the river shifts course. You don't need the shore to feel secure. You trust the current. This doesn't mean you don't care. In fact, it allows you to care more. Because you're no longer loving things in order to possess them. You love without clinging. You give without expecting return. You experience without needing control. And paradoxically, that is when things begin to flourish. A flower grows best when you don't tug at it every day to check its roots. When you're attached to the result of something, whether it's success, approval, or even enlightenment, you begin to act out of fear. You become tense, you begin to manipulate and calculate, but when you're detached, you act out of joy. You paint because you love painting, not because you want a gallery to accept your work. You speak your truth not to be agreed with, but because it is real for you. And that is what makes it powerful. The freedom in detachment is not the absence of desire, it's the absence of compulsion. It's the ability to want something without being owned by that want. It's the gentle whisper that says, even if this falls away, I remain whole. Because your peace is not dependent on how the world spins. Your peace is found in your willingness to spin with it, lightly, playfully, with open hands. So when life asks you to let go, don't resist. When something begins to crumble, don't cling. It's not the end, it's an invitation. A reminder that nothing real can be threatened, and nothing unreal needs protecting. You are not the roles you play, the things you have, or the stories you tell. You are the space that holds them all, and that space cannot be broken. To be detached is to be free, not above life but within it, untethered yet grounded, and in that space you find a stillness that cannot be disturbed, a joy that cannot be stolen, a love that needs nothing in return, and that, my friend, is where the true journey begins. Existential freedom is not simply the ability to do what you want, when you want. It is far deeper and far more unnerving than that. It is the realization that you are utterly, profoundly free at the most fundamental level of your being, that there is no script, no divine puppet strings, no final authority handing you a cosmic checklist and saying, "This is who you must be." And while this might sound exhilarating, it also terrifies us, because freedom brings with it the dreadful truth that there is no one else to blame and no one else to save you. We spend most of our lives trying to escape this fact. We create roles, titles, belief systems. We say, "I am a student, a parent, a worker, a seeker," as if these identities are who we truly are. But underneath all of it, there is simply awareness, bare, radiant, and unscripted. The moment you truly see that you are not your name, your job, or even your thoughts, something cracks open. You glimpse the vast emptiness at the core of all this busyness, and in that emptiness you find freedom. But it's not the kind of freedom we're used to. It's not about getting what you want or avoiding pain. It's the freedom of recognizing that you were never trapped to begin with, that the prison was built by your own mind, with bars of fear and walls of should. The mind says, "I must be something. I must find meaning." And yet the irony is that meaning only emerges when you stop forcing it. Just as music arises not from the notes alone, but from the space between them, life becomes meaningful when you stop trying to make it so. Freedom is not found in control. It's found in surrender, in saying yes to the chaos, the uncertainty, the mystery, in realizing that you don't need to find a purpose, you are the purpose. You don't need to discover the meaning of life like some buried treasure. It is already here, humming in the breath, blooming in the silence between your thoughts. You see, the universe is not a puzzle to be solved. It's a song to be danced to. But you can't dance if you're constantly checking the steps. You can't live if you're constantly trying to justify your existence. Real freedom arises when you stop performing and start being. When you stop asking, "Am I doing this right?" and start feeling the rhythm beneath your feet. And this is where it gets wonderfully strange. When you accept your freedom, you stop trying to be special, because you realize that the idea of being special was just another cage, another performance. You are not here to impress anyone, not even yourself. You are here to experience, to play, to love, to suffer, to laugh, and ultimately to dissolve back into the great mystery from which you came. Existential freedom is the liberation of the soul from its own illusion. It is knowing that you are the dreamer and the dream, the actor and the stage, and so you begin to live differently, not because someone told you to, but because you've tasted something real. You become more playful, less anxious. You don't need to argue about who's right or wrong. You're too busy drinking in the beauty of being alive. You become less rigid in your thinking, because you realize no thought can contain the vastness of what you are. And in this realization there is great compassion. You stop judging others for their confusion, because you see your own reflected in them. You understand that we are all walking blindfolded through eternity, hoping for some glimpse of light, and that, paradoxically, is what makes it beautiful. So, don't be afraid of your freedom. Don't run from the great blank canvas that life offers you. Pick up the brush, make a mess, laugh at the absurdity, cry at the depth of it, and most importantly, be here. Because in this moment, this breath, this silence, there is no one you have to be, nothing you have to prove. You are already free. Existential freedom is not simply the ability to do what you want when you want. It is far deeper and far more unnerving than that. It is the realization that you are utterly, profoundly free at the most fundamental level of your being, that there is no script, no divine puppet strings, no final authority handing you a cosmic checklist and saying, "This is who you must be." And while this might sound exhilarating, it also terrifies us, because freedom brings with it the dreadful truth that there is no one else to blame and no one else to save you. We spend most of our lives trying to escape this fact. We create roles, titles, belief systems. We say, "I am a student, a parent, a worker, a seeker," as if these identities are who we truly are. But underneath all of it, there is simply awareness, bare, radiant, and unscripted. The moment you truly see that you are not your name, your job, or even your thoughts, something cracks open. You glimpse the vast emptiness at the core of all this busyness, and in that emptiness you find freedom. But it's not the kind of freedom we're used to. It's not about getting what you want or avoiding pain. It's the freedom of recognizing that you were never trapped to begin with, that the prison was built by your own mind, with bars of fear and walls of should. The mind says, "I must be something, I must find meaning." And yet the irony is that meaning only emerges when you stop forcing it. Just as music arises not from the notes alone, but from the space between them, life becomes meaningful when you stop trying to make it so. Freedom is not found in control. It's found in surrender, in saying yes to the chaos, the uncertainty, the mystery, in realizing that you don't need to find a purpose, you are the purpose. You don't need to discover the meaning of life like some buried treasure. It is already here, humming in the breath, blooming in the silence between your thoughts. You see, the universe is not a puzzle to be solved. It's a song to be danced to. But you can't dance if you're constantly checking the steps. You can't live if you're constantly trying to justify your existence. Real freedom arises when you stop performing and start being, when you stop asking, "Am I doing this right?" and start feeling the rhythm beneath your feet. And this is where it gets wonderfully strange. When you accept your freedom, you stop trying to be special, because you realize that the idea of being special was just another cage, another performance. You are not here to impress anyone, not even yourself. You are here to experience, to play, to love, to suffer, to laugh, and ultimately to dissolve back into the great mystery from which you came. Existential freedom is the liberation of the soul from its own illusions. It is knowing that you are the dreamer and the dream, the actor and the stage, and so you begin to live differently, not because someone told you to, but because you've tasted something real. You become more playful, less anxious. You don't need to argue about who's right or wrong. You're too busy drinking in the beauty of being alive. You become less rigid in your thinking, because you realize no thought can contain the vastness of what you are. And in this realization there is great compassion. You stop judging others for their confusion, because you see your own reflected in them. You understand that we are all walking blindfolded through eternity, hoping for some glimpse of light, and that, paradoxically, is what makes it beautiful. So don't be afraid of your freedom. Don't run from the great blank canvas that life offers you. Pick up the brush, make a mess, laugh at the absurdity, cry at the depth of it, and most importantly, be here. Because in this moment, this breath, this silence, there is no one you have to be, nothing you have to prove. You are already free. The present moment is all there ever is, but we have a peculiar habit of running away from it, don't we? Our minds scurry off into the future, rehearsing what might go wrong or fantasizing about what we think will make us happy. Or we look back, replaying memories, rewriting stories, clinging to what was or what should have been. But all the while the present, the only reality that actually exists, slips silently through our fingers. It's a strange thing. We treat the present as a means to an end, a bridge to something better. We say, once I get there, once I finish this, once they understand, then I'll be okay. But that there never arrives, it always becomes here, and yet we never stop running. Like a donkey chasing a carrot tied to its own back, we exhaust ourselves in pursuit of something that was never separate from us in the first place. The great cosmic joke is that everything you're looking for is already right here, but you're too busy looking elsewhere to notice. You are the awareness within which all of life arises, and that awareness only ever exists now, not in the abstract future or the remembered past, but here, in this breath, in this sound, in this very heartbeat. We've been conditioned to believe that life is a problem to be solved, that time is a ladder we must climb, and that peace lies at the top if only we try hard enough. But life is not a problem. It is not something to conquer or control. It is something to feel, to taste, to witness, and that only happens when we stop trying to escape this moment and begin to enter it fully. The present moment doesn't ask you to be perfect. It doesn't care about your plans, your image, your resume. It doesn't care whether you're winning or losing, growing or falling apart. It just is, and in its presence, all your masks begin to fall away. You're not your worries. You're not your ambitions. You're not even your thoughts. You are the stillness behind them, the one who watches, and in that watching there is peace. Now, this isn't about rejecting the past or ignoring the future. It's about seeing them for what they are, thoughts arising now. Memories are experienced in the present. Plans are formed in the present. Everything you've ever known or ever will know happens in this one continuous moment. The past is a story. The future is imagination. The present is reality, but we resist it. Why? Because the present moment is unpredictable. It doesn't play by our rules, and we'd rather cling to the illusion of control than surrender to the rawness of what is. Yet that surrender is where the real power lies, not in force, not in effort, but in allowing, in letting life show up as it is, not as we demand it to be. When you finally rest in the now, you begin to see life not as something happening to you, but as something happening through you. Every sensation, every sound, every flicker of light becomes a kind of sacred dance. Even pain, even confusion, when met fully, begins to soften, because you're no longer fighting it. You're no longer splitting yourself in two, with one part always trying to fix or improve the other. You are whole because you are present. The miracle of now is not that it fixes everything, it's that it reveals there was nothing to fix. Just waves rising and falling on the surface of a vast, still ocean. The more deeply you enter this moment, the more life begins to unfold with a kind of effortless grace. Decisions become clearer, relationships become more honest, even your breath feels like a gift, not a habit. So come back from your stories, your plans, your fears, not because they're wrong, but because they're not here, and here is where life lives. This moment, this breath, this sacred now, this is all there ever is. And in it, you are already home. We live in a world intoxicated by yes. Say yes to opportunities, say yes to love, say yes to success, say yes to everything life throws your way. And while there's beauty in openness, in the willingness to meet life with an outstretched hand, there is also great wisdom in the opposite. The art of saying no is not rejection for the sake of defiance. It is the sacred act of alignment. It is the moment you realize that your time, your energy, your attention are finite, and that every yes is also a no to something else. You see, we've confused kindness with compliance. We've mistaken politeness for spiritual maturity. We are taught to please, to agree, to keep the peace, even at the cost of our inner truth. But true peace does not come from pleasing others. It comes from harmony within. And sometimes, to preserve that harmony, you must be willing to disrupt the expectations around you. Sometimes, the most loving thing you can do for yourself and for others is to say no, but saying no is difficult because it strikes at the heart of ego. We want to be liked, to be seen as reliable, generous, flexible. And so we bend, we stretch ourselves thin in the name of connection, when in fact we're disconnecting from our own center. But you cannot pour from an empty cup. You cannot keep giving yes after yes without diluting the value of your presence. To say no is to remember that you are not here to fulfill every demand, answer every call, or chase every offer. You are here to be whole, not scattered. You are here to live, not to perform. When you say no, not from fear, but from clarity, it is an act of self-respect. It is the honoring of your own rhythm, your own silence, your own sacred space. And saying no is not always about words. It's a posture, a way of being. Sometimes it's stepping away from drama. Sometimes it's turning off the noise. Sometimes it's choosing solitude when the world demands your attention. It's the quiet confidence of one who knows their worth without needing to explain it. You do not owe anyone an excuse for protecting your peace. We have made ourselves slaves to obligation. I should, we say, I have to. But who is the voice behind that urgency? Is it your own inner knowing? Or is it fear wearing a mask of duty? Ask yourself, is this yes aligned with my joy, my values, my truth? Or is it a survival mechanism dressed up in good intentions? The universe doesn't reward the martyr. It responds to authenticity. And when you say no from a place of integrity, life has a way of adjusting. Yes, some people may not understand. Yes, some doors may close, but the doors that remain, the ones that truly honor who you are, those are the ones worth walking through. Ironically, when you learn to say no, your yes becomes powerful again. It's no longer automatic, no longer diluted. It carries weight. It means something. You say yes not because you're expected to, but because you genuinely want to. And that is when life begins to flow. Not from pressure, but from presence. The art of saying no is not a wall, it's a doorway into your own sovereignty, a remembering that you are not a tool, not a resource, not a role to be filled. You are a being, a whole universe of thoughts, feelings, mysteries, and you deserve the space to explore that. So let your no be as sacred as your yes. Let it be soft or firm, spoken or silent. Let it rise from the stillness of your heart, not the noise of your conditioning. You owe no one your energy, only your truth. And when you live from that truth, something beautiful happens. You stop chasing the world and you start meeting it. Just as you are, and that is where the real dance begins. True fulfillment is not found at the end of the road, it is the road. And yet, we are so often fooled into believing that it is a distant destination, something we must chase, earn, achieve. We imagine it as a golden trophy waiting at the top of a mountain, only to find that when we get there, the mountain has moved, and the sum, it was never the point. We spend our lives in pursuit of success, recognition, love, safety. We tick the boxes, reach the milestones, and yet an emptiness lingers, a quiet whisper asking, is this all? And the whisper is not a flaw in the system. It is the system itself unraveling, revealing its illusion. Because you see, fulfillment was never about accumulation. It was never about becoming more. It was always about remembering who you already are. The tragedy is that we've been conditioned to believe we are incomplete, that we must strive to become something else, someone better, someone worthy. But what if the truth is not in becoming, but in being, not in effort, but in awareness? What if you are not a problem to be fixed, but a presence to be realized? Fulfillment is not a prize to be won. It is the deep, abiding contentment that arises when you stop running from yourself, when you stop measuring your life by the standards of others, and begin to feel your life directly, intimately, without judgment. It is not excitement or ecstasy, though those may come and go. It is the quiet joy of being exactly where you are, even when where you are is messy, uncertain, or still unfolding. But the mind resists this. It says, I will be fulfilled when I have that job, that relationship, that breakthrough. It projects happiness into the future like a mirage, and so we live in waiting, waiting for things to line up, for the stars to bless us, for the perfect moment to arrive. And all the while life is happening, not tomorrow, not next year. Now, true fulfillment comes not from trying to control life, but from entering into it, completely without reservation. It's not passive resignation, but active participation. A kind of sacred surrender. You engage with the world not because you need it to complete you, but because you are already whole, and that wholeness spills out as art, service, love, laughter. You're no longer trying to get something from the moment. You're simply in it as it. This kind of fulfillment does not depend on conditions. It's not rooted in whether you're winning or losing, praised or ignored, rising or falling. It's deeper than that. It's the stillness at the heart of your being that watches it all with wonder, with curiosity, even with humor. Because it knows that you are not what happens to you. You are the awareness in which it all arises, and from that awareness comes a profound lightness. You no longer need to grip so tightly, to push so hard, to prove so much. You begin to move with the rhythm of life, not against it, and strangely, that's when life starts to open up, not because you're demanding it, but because you're dancing with it. You see, fulfillment is not about fixing yourself. It's about seeing that you were never broken, not for one moment. It's about realizing that the very desire for more is itself the veil over what you already have. You don't need to become enlightened. You need only to recognize that the light was never gone. So sit with yourself, not to analyze, not to judge, but to listen. Listen not with your ears, but with your being. Let go of the chase just for a moment, and feel what it is to be alive. The breath, the pulse, the mystery, that is enough. That is more than enough. And when you finally stop searching, you might just discover that what you were looking for was always looking through your eyes. And in that recognition there is peace, not because everything is perfect, but because you no longer need it to be. That is true fulfillment.